Greetings! Welcome to the Devlog for Alpha 3 of Update 100 of Hot Dogs, Horseshoes, and Hand Grenades. We're going to start, as always, with a quick sound check. Make sure speakers aren't up too high. Ho-ho! Double sound check! Wonderful. So what have we got for you this week? Well, as you can see, we have our mag retention reloading, hopefully without too many major bugs. I'll tell you folks, I fought with a few of these, but it should be more reliable now for doing things like, oh, is it going to, you know what? It keeps, I can't tell if it keeps reversing which hand it thinks I have. Let me go into SteamVR real quick. Yep, that was, the code works. I just have the wrong controller in the wrong hand. There we go. So yes, so just how this works again, if you didn't catch the last devlog, is if you have a magazine in your hand, you can click, if you're in classic controls, down on the touchpad or back on the stick. Or if you're in the streamlined controls, X, and you can use that to pick up another magazine from the inside of your hand, like so. You can use it to drop that palmed magazine into a quick belt slot, or pick one out of it. You can use it to drop a mag, or even throw one, like so. You can use it to pull a magazine out of a spawn-locked one there. Ha-ha! I don't think a single one of those rounds actually hit the paper target. Wow. And of course, if you're holding grab and you are near a gun that has a magazine, if you hit its eject button with your hand near, it will actually extract that magazine out into your hand. So there you have it. Wonderful. And to go with this and to celebrate it, we have got a new toy, another beautiful piece by Sergey. I think a few of you had asked for this in the past. It is the PMM. That's right, our modern version of the Makarov with just a gorgeous finish on it. Just look at that. Look at that. With a integral red dot on it. This definitely makes this one of the better take and hold starting weapons. We've got, as you can see here, this thicker magazine. This holds 12 rounds. Like so. Wonderful. Haha, I love doing that. Come on, come on. Doesn't seem like the slide geo wants to inertially rack this one. There we go. Obviously, don't do that in real life, kids. I'm not sure you honestly can. Wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. So I got this piece in here. So a bunch of you I know had asked before, let's say you use the Better Hands mod or some other mod that changes the way magazine behavior works or your hands, and you don't want to use this. Right here in Firearms and Object Options, we've got magazine palming. Right there's an option. You can just disable it. It will disable all of this functionality. Just don't have like a palmed mag in your hand when you change this option, or I'm sure something will break. But yeah, so that is there. It is defaulted to on. Just so you know, and I don't think, did we change anything? Nope. Oh, and I'll discuss this once we get out of VR, because I did some back-end tweaks with the hand smoothing and filtering, but we will talk about those in a moment. So yeah, so there you have it. New toy for yourselves, mag retention loading. I'm sure it's still gonna break in a bunch of spots, but gotta test it at some point. So there you go. Anywho, let's jump out of VR, because this alpha had a whole bunch of bug fixes in it. So let's quickly cover those. Yo! Hope you're all doing well. So as I said before, this update has a whole bunch of bug fixes in it. So let's take a look at our bug fix list here and see what's going on here. Let's see. I fixed a bug or two involving the arm swinger smooth turning. Actually, a user reported that, digging through the code, which always fills me with equal parts of like, yay, someone found a bug, and also like, oh no, people are looking at my code. No. Fix the SVT40 safety rotation states. Very critical fix here. absolutely critical. The take and hold loading wiener now correctly makes a sound again when you throw it into your face to load a take and hold level. The alternate mag pose now functions correctly on the Quest 2 and the G2. Looks like that had been relying on an enum that I had not updated in a while. Whoops. The scope menu should now disable correctly when it's open on streamline controls and you take the scope off of a weapon. So that should now work correctly. The AKM's 10-round magazine now displays its name correctly in the wrist menu. I rebaked the occlusion culling in the Winter Wasteland scene after messing with it for a while. This is a weird one because, like, I could have sworn that I had made it so that a couple of those buildings that had tiny windows in them were not causing occlusion culling issues. I had already done this, and someone was like, "It's still broken." And I was like, that's strange. So I went back in, and a whole bunch of values had been reverted. So either I had fixed that and just crashed at some point, or not hit save on the scene, or something like that. But a little bit of a mystery, but that should now work. If you're curious as to why those sorts of things occur, because frankly put, those sorts of glitches can occur. I've seen them in a number of games. Anytime that you have occlusion culling in a game, what is effectively doing is it's sort of subdividing every game level into these little volumes, and then asking the question, if the camera is anywhere in this volume, what objects can we 100% be sure that we can't see from it based upon other occluders, or a simplified representation of all other occluders? This tends to work very reliably as long as the sort of shape or silhouette or a hole in a given object is at least X big. And so the most common, when I run into this bug, the most frequent problem is when I have either a hole or a concave part of a piece of geometry that is small enough that that simplification of the scene that is used for going like, I can see that, I can't see that, I can see that, I can't see that, can't represent that detail. So frequently you have to turn that off for things like windows, essentially make the entire wall no longer occlude things. It's not a big deal in H3, but this can be one of the things that actually makes performance really, really challenging in complex ruined environments and just complex environments with lots of buildings, lots of windows. So my heart goes out to any team that has to deal with that sort of thing with a city scene. So yeah, fixed the AK-5C shell ejection trajectory, and then I fixed. There were some inconsistencies with the way that the head filtering that I had added to try to smooth the virtual stock was working, and this is something that I'm still working on. There's still some behavior with it since I made these changes that I'm not 100% certain where in the math it's arising from. I've got it closer to what I want. You should be aware, though, that if you have hand filtering enabled right now and the virtual stock and are holding a two-handed weapon that is getting virtual stocked, if you snap turn, the gun will have a little bit of sort of like sudden movement and then damping to smooth to that new rotation. I'm not 100% certain I can ever remove that now due to the way that I recoded a bunch of the virtual stock to support filtering, but I am this next week going to try to go back in and find the places where I changed things recently and try to add sort of separate code paths at least. But if that feature bothers you, disable hand filtering. Set it to raw only under filtering. You can still use the sniping assist if you're using, artificial, if you're using snap turning with smooth locomotion. But yeah, that's the only way at the moment to deal with that little behavioral oddity. I swear this is like, it's like layers and layers of if-elses for various settings and locomotion modes and object, connection modes and all of this stuff. It's a little difficult to keep track of the permutation space of how all these things interact. The joys and challenges of making a game with a bajillion options. So, But yeah, so that is about it for this week. Please play around with the magazine palming. Let me know what you think. I know a lot of people had originally suggested, they had done like, oh, can you make it so that the mag stays exactly in the pose that it was in at the moment that the palming began? And I tried that, and it was terrible. It ended up provoking a whole bunch of sort of like state fluttering bugs involving a mag getting sort of ejected and then immediately reinserted into a gun, even though I've got a bunch of timing checks for that. And because there's not another button, there was no sort of easy way to be like, now line them back up, please. Or something like that. So I know I got that suggestion from like 15 people, know that I gave it a shot, and that I rejected how it worked. I was not a fan. So yeah, so it's going to just stay with the parallel alignment. That way I can actually make sure that, with the various thicknesses between the mags, that they don't like clutter into each other as well. So that's the other thing that was added this week I forgot to mention, is that I'm now automatically parsing the real thickness of the magazine and all of its colliders, using some like closest point to individual colliders and sort of max blending it. It's a harder problem than you would think. You would think a game engine would have a reliable, super generic way of answering the question, how thick is this object? But the thing is, an object can be composed of an arbitrary depth hierarchy. It can be composed of an arbitrary number of arbitrarily rotated and scaled renders. It can be composed of an arbitrary number of arbitrarily shaped, typed, scaled, and rotated and positioned colliders. And so asking the question, what is the true physics width of this object relative to itself, actually takes a little bit of math. It is not actually cheap, but thankfully we only have to do it once per mag when it gets instantiated. And so I was able to do that scaling automatically. And that scaling parameter is actually used for determining, can this magazine be palmed or not. So you can't just pick up 2 belt boxes. You can't just pick up 2 thick drums. But basically anything that could still be considered a stick magazine should be within the width threshold that allows you to palm it. Whew. So I think that is just about it for this week. I hope you all have a blast playing with it, and I will go back into the horrible, horrible item spawner mines where I'm just like hitting a pick against the wall until I eventually get that in a place that is worth playing with. So, wish you all the best. See you soon. Peace.